Welcome to something a little different that I'm going to be doing here for who knows how long. We'll see how long I'm having fun and how well I'm doing figuring it out. And that is the great campaigns of the American Civil War. This is Stonewall Jackson's Way 2, The Battles of Bull Run, not the reprint that just came out. This is the original 2013 printing, which I got for an amazing price from someone who lives local to me, who picked up the reprint and didn't need his original copy. It was unpunched, basically brand new. Got it for quite the deal. So thank you very much, sir, for selling, and I hope that we get a chance to play soon as I learn the system. And that is what we are doing here, learning the system. I am not going to pretend that I am the ultimate authority on either A, the Civil War, because I know really nothing about it other than sort of the very broad strokes. Not really my era. And so you may be asking, why are you playing a Civil War game? Well, I will get to that. But I'm also not going to pretend to be an expert on the system either, because like I said, I am learning it. It's one of the wordiest rule books I think I've ever read. I don't know who wrote the system rules, the basic system rules, but it does have a bit of an Ed Beach pontification to it, let's say. And I know he works on the series, so I'm just kind of maybe putting two and two together. But as you can see here, I've got one map set up. I've got the rules hanging out over here because this game doesn't come with the most up-to-date version of the rules. And I've got the force displays laid out for the Unions and the Confederates. I was trying to find a scenario in here that I could do a little tutorial, a little run-through, and just kind of figure out the basic mechanics. And we've stumbled upon Scenario 4 from the All Green Alike module. And incidentally, I should mention, this boxed game comes with two modules, or games really, two full games in here. All Green Alike, which is 1861 campaigns, Battles of Bull Run, and then the other one is called Stonewall Jackson's Way, I believe. Yeah, Stonewall Jackson's Way. So, early Civil War, figured it would be a good way to go. We'd go through chronologically, potentially, and learn it. I want to do some scenarios before I tackle one of the campaigns, because there's a whole bunch of extra advanced rules that get added onto the campaigns. I don't really need to go into this a lot, but the maps in this series are absolutely amazing. The only thing I wish was that the hexes were a little bigger. It is very tight quarters in here, and especially in this scenario. I have chosen Scenario 4 from All Green Alike because it is a single turn. And I figured it would be the best way to figure it out. Maybe not the best move, because there are some special advanced rules that get applied to this scenario, which I can tell you about shortly. But coming back to the question of why am I playing a Civil War game? Well, it's not really my era, but I'm always looking for quality, compelling gaming experiences. And in this particular case, I had watched some videos and I had heard so much about great campaigns of the American Civil War. And you know me, I love operational games, operational thinking, operational strategy. And hey, why not give it a shot, right? The price was right. The operational scope of it was compelling. The maps, like I said, incredible. And MMP very rarely lets me down. So, and also Ed Beach being attached to it, which I did not know, what really ultimately pushed me over the edge. And so here we are, playing the, what is this scenario called? An End to Innocence. This takes place on July 21st, 1861. It's a night march scenario for the Union. I'm going to set this down here so that we can get a closer look at the action, and then we'll go into what exactly is happening here. So, like I said, it's a night march for the Union, and that means that the Union player, the Union side here, is going to get an automatic 3 free initiatives, which means they get to take 3 turns in a row, essentially 3 activations. You can see some units back up here. We've got some infantry coming down this railroad line, this road line, and there's one here in Fairfax Courthouse, and there's another one off screen to the north that you can't see. I guess that's north. It would be the top of the screen. You've got the Confederates here along Bull Run, really heavily entrenched, and a bunch of breastworks. An abatis marker. There's also another breastworks under there. You've got some not disorganized. I forget what it's called. Units have 2 sides. They've got this side here. Whoops, I put that on top of Camp Pickens. That is Manassas Junction. They've got this side here, and then they've got this side here. I will look in the rules what that is called, but essentially it's effectiveness. What's interesting about this system is that every time you do anything, your units get fatigue, and so the whole system is built around making the best use of your units on their particular activations, so that they may do the best they can before they get tired and then have to rest, which is kind of cool. Again, operational thinking, really, really neat. I'm gonna move this so you can see some of these cubes I've placed. The blue cubes are victory objectives for points for the Union player. If they capture any of these hexes, they're gonna get points. You've got a white cube up here. That is a Confederate victory point hex, which is, it actually should be here, but I have it off to the side so I can see the units. And I don't know how likely it is that they're gonna get that, because the Union is gonna get 3 free activations and kind of march up into position. But essentially, the Union wants to kind of flank around here. Now, historically, as I was reading, this was a Confederate victory, and they sent the Union army to rout. So we'll see what happens there. There's bridges along the Bull Run here. One there, one there. And I believe, yeah, those are the two. Oh, there's one down here as well. But the Union forces are positioned to kind of flank around this direction. Now, there is actually I think this is a creek. I will have to double check that. Creeks don't cost movement points. Yeah, this is a creek right here. So, the Confederates have to be careful that they don't, the Union doesn't just come around here and snatch Groveton here, which would be bad. That's where we are. I'm probably not going to go too much into the rules or the combat and show you how to play. There are many channels that on YouTube that play this system that know it really well, Stigler being one of them. He's known for his GCACW content. I'm just wanting to learn it and how to play it. So I will check in with the action and kind of let you know what's going on with sort of a minimum of overhead about how some of this stuff works. But fundamentally, this is a strength point game. You can see here or here, for example, 2 strength points under there. And these are leaders. Leaders come in different types, and there are different formations. Green here, yellow, I believe, can be our cavalry. Yep. And we've got this... what is that, corps here, or division potentially of orange. So there's a couple formations on each side. And then the other thing I should just mention is I'm using these force markers here because these stacks would get very high. And you can see that the Confederates have units in these forces that are on the map, and they will, under certain circumstances, have to be placed on the map. But for now, they're going to stay where they are. Got the Union one up here. What else do I have to tell you? Oh, probably, well, it is a victory point thing. I'll tell you who and how wins, who all wins and how they win after I finish this turn. But it is a single turn, so this shouldn't take me too long. This should be a pretty short video to give you an introduction of what the great campaigns of the American Civil War looks like a little bit. So I'm going to get on with my Union Night March. Just to explain that, again, 3 free activations. They have to be leader activations. There are leaders in these force markers. We'll see what I want to do with them. As soon as a unit enters a zone of control, into a Confederate zone of control, no other Union units can enter zones of control except for that zone of control. So we've really got to pinpoint where our first assault is going to be. And I'm thinking, with only 2 strength points here at this bridge, it's going to be right there, Stone Bridge. So more to come. Well, immediately right off the bat, the Union have some really good luck. So this huge stack here, which is, I believe, Heinzelman? Yeah, it's Heinzelman. His corps or division. I think it might be his division. I should probably check that so I don't get yelled at in the comments. Heinzelman is a divisional commander. So Heinzelman's division, he started here. In this game, you roll a die every time you move with your units, which is kind of interesting. So you get variable movement on your units. He rolled a 5, and in this particular game, that means he gets 6 movement points. So he was able to run all the way down here, up this road, and jump down here near Sudley Springs, which is now really threatening the Confederate left here, because all he's got to do is hop down. As soon as he's allowed to, he can hop down and grab Groveton around the left flank. So the Confederacy will have to respond to that. But just an example of how good luck or bad luck can really make or break your battle plans. And that was one of the attractive things to the system, to me, which is, you decide who you're going to order essentially, and then those units may or may not be able to move far or slow, and it kind of simulates the battlefield confusion and fog of war and command confusion that can occur sort of in this era, but also in general just in a sort of commanding role over the army. So I think that's really neat. And as first turn that I've ever played of GCACW, I've been able to make a really aggressive move, a really quick night march here in the Confederacy now, having to think about their left a little bit. We're going to continue on. That was my first... This leader activation and all these units, you can see how unwieldy this stack would be. That was my first of 3 free night march activations, and so we are going to continue on and probably position the units that I want to assault across Stonebridge here to really make it hard for the Confederates to do anything about this. All right, so after the Night March activation, this stack here getting ready for a big-time assault against Evans, but we'll see if the Confederates win initiative on this upcoming turn. I can remove these because we're done with the Night Marches. I just needed to make sure I marked who had already activated. You can see Miles here. Miles moved down from his position near Centerville. Could not enter a Zoc, but he does have eyes on going into Union Mills and hopefully taking this bridge. These units under these breastworks, there's quite a lot of them. They're going to be a 10. There's 5, and they're going to be doubled for the ratio, so that'll be 10. So maybe not the best attack. And then obviously the bulk of the Confederate force here is threatening Richardson's brigade, who's got 6, pretty good, but they're in, they're across a river. There are some potentially nasty things that the Confederates could do here. They could come up this way and attack Keyes, who moved in just to provide sort of a protected flank against this huge stack here. They wouldn't want to be sort of surrounded. But already some maneuver happening here based on the movement points that the Union rolled this turn. I'm really not sure about these stacks. This is kind of ridiculous, to be perfectly honest, and every time a unit does something, you've got to put one of these fatigue markers on them. So not the easiest game to play, per se, even just across these couple of activations. So now what we do is we roll a die for each side. The white side is going to be the Confederacy and the red side is going to be the Union. I know that's a little confusing, but that's what the game came with. We throw them in here, and it's tied. I think if it's tied, you re-roll. I will check that. All right, in this game, if it's a tie, the Confederate player wins. Great. So the Confederate player is going to get to go, and we'll see what we do with them. One correction here, and that is I did something a little bit illegal. I actually looked through. There were a couple of game-specific rules that I forgot to read. So McDowell here, who originally decided that he was going to do, he's a district commander, so typically he would be the overall commander of the Union forces here. I thought I could pick up not only Tyler's units and have them go, but also his units under there. And it turns out district leaders in this particular game can only command 2 units. And so instead of him being able to join Tyler, he just basically commanded Tyler to move up to the bridge to get ready for an assault. So not a huge deal, just doesn't mean I have a ginormous stack here, which is useful for manipulating the game. But Tyler, as a divisional commander, was able to activate 4 units. So he's got 2 or 3 with him, plus he activated Keyes to cover his flank. So we are all good there. We had enough movement for all of that, and then obviously Miles activated and came down here, and the third activation here was Heinzelman, who's also a divisional commander. So we're all good now. We're all correct. I'm fixing that up. McDowell's still here at Centerville, the Union headquarters, and we'll see what happens now with the Confederates. Well, some major command confusion on the Confederate side. Beauregard, well, not Beauregard, it was actually Johnston. Did a leader activation. He could command up to 3 infantry units. We had to roll to see how many movement points those units get, and they only got 1 + 1, 2 movement points. What the Confederates were attempting to do, they didn't want to give up these defensive positions along the river, although maybe they should have. But they were worried about Evans, who's in a real bad position here now. So they wanted to get Beauregard and the units that he has with him, Beauregard and Early's brigade, and they wanted to sort of bring those out of McLean House, come down this road and try and make it up here to protect Groveton. Now, that's a long way. They wouldn't have made it this turn, but they were hoping to at least get enough movement points to get around. Unfortunately, they rolled 2 movement points, and that basically let them go here and put a stop to their movement. The other unit that got 2 movement points was Holmes's brigade. He was able to move back to Camp Pickens, but that's about it. And so the Confederates really slow to react to this really rapid Union advance here around the flank. Pretty interesting how just even that small of a thing can have a huge effect on the sort of tactical situation. So that's the Confederate activation. And now we go and we roll again for initiative. And we get the Union with 3 and the Confederates with 1. And so the Union now is going to get to activate, and they are probably going to make an assault here. That seems about to be the right thing to do right now. While they have this position here, they're going to assault here, try and break through, try and get to Groveton. Conversely, they could also activate, actually, as I look at it, they could activate, this should go here. They could activate Heinzelman again. That is also an interesting option. 1, 2, 3 to get to Groveton. That's probably actually the better move at this particular point. While they have the initiative, might as well take that march. It will send them to a fatigue level of 2, but I'm not sure that that actually affects anything at this juncture, and having them here in the Confederate rear is probably a strong position for them. So let's see how many movement points they get. A Confederate, we're going to activate, we're going to do a leader activation. We're going to activate Heinzelman. That is a divisional. He is a divisional leader, so he's going to roll 1d6 plus 1 to see how many movement points. Oh, unfortunately, again, slow to react. Some command confusion, possibly some, some stragglers, what have you, whatever you want to explain here. It's 2 movement points for Heinzelman. So, unfortunately, one of his units, let's say the largest one, let's see, this has 4, this has 6, let's say it's this one. So you don't move in stacks in this game, I don't think. You move in individual units, and that is because there's an extra movement point cost to move through hexes that have strength points in them already, which is why things can be slow going. There's sort of a traffic thing you've got to manage here. So we've got 2 movement points here. We're going to go 1 and 2 down to Sudley Church. We are within 1 of Groveton. The rest of these units can move 2. Let's see, this is Wilcox. He's got 4 strength points. He's got 4 strength points. I guess, do we have to declare the units that are moving? Let's see. We calculated the leader's movement allowance. Yeah, you do have to select the units before you do anything. Well, I did want to move all of them, so this is going to be, everyone's going to take some fatigue. Okay, here's the other option that we can choose. We can try and take a force march with Howard's brigade here. We could try and take a force march with him. Let me see what that looks like, and we might try and do that. Okay, so just to go back to this here, we've got this unit is technically on this stack. Now, what I can do is flip him to his disorganized. So if you look at the strength point marker, they've got an organized side and they've got a disorganized side. So you can see that his value here is different when he's disorganized. And by the way, this side here is normal, or I believe that is called, it's not fatigued, it's something else. Fatigue is these markers. I forget what it's called. Anyways, there's like 4 different states. There's fatigue, organization, disorganization. Oh, exhausted, that's what it is. They are exhausted or normal, so that would be exhausted. So all the cavalry start this scenario exhausted. Anyways, we are going to go ahead and do this. We're going to do a force march. So the way this works is you roll a d6. So we know we have 2 movement points for all of the units we're activating, and we're activating this entire stack. But to do a force march, the unit must be organized, which it is. You flip it over to its disorganized side. You roll 1 die and subtract 1. This is the number of movement points that the unit will get. We rolled a 6. That reduces to 5. That's plenty. However, because based on what you roll for the extra movement points, you also lose manpower. So because it is a 6, we actually lose 2 manpower. So this is a 6 flipped over to a 4, and unfortunately that's also going to mean that becomes a 4 flipped over to a 2, as you can see. So he's only got 3 strength points right now. So while Howard is able to move his unit, sorry, there's a lot going on here. So while Howard does now have 8 movement points, he's only going to use 1, 2, 3 of those movement points to go here. He is fatigue level 2, and he is disorganized because he raced down that road. So he's going to take control of that particular hex, which is what the Union wants, and I think probably worth it. I should move this back so you can see. Worth it for the victory points. And now we have 2 movement points for the rest of these folks here, including Heinzelman, who didn't want to go with him. Heinzelman will stay here. And so we can go 1, 2 to there. And that will add a fatigue, because he marched. And then we could do Wilcox here. Now here's the problem with Wilcox. Heinzelman has 4 strength points in this hex here. So we can go 1, 2, but because there are 4 strength points there already, it's actually going to cost extra movement point to get there. There's a lot of guys in the area and the roads are only so wide. So we actually can't make it with Wilcox. But what we are going to do with Wilcox is move him. He's got 2 movement points. I believe you are allowed to make a 1 hex move regardless of terrain cost and movement point cost. I will check on that. But what I want to do is move him here, sort of in between, in and around these creeks, and get in the rear of Evans, who, if the Union wins initiative again, we're going to make an assault, and now suddenly he's being potentially flanked, which will give us some modifiers in combat. So I think I'm getting it. But this is sort of some of the maneuver elements of this system, and it's pretty compelling, actually. It reminds me of a more complicated version of some of the stuff you find in like War and Peace, for example, which I played this past weekend and really enjoyed. Anyways, let's go on to another initiative roll. Actually, I'll do it right now while you're here, since we finished the Union turn. We roll, and we get a Confederate 6, which would normally mean that the Confederates would take this. However, the Confederates are being affected by what's called command paralysis, and every time they roll a 6, the first 2 times they roll a 6 to win initiative, they actually lose the initiative. So the Union wins initiative again, and that's bad news for Evans here, because Evans is surrounded and Tyler's going to make an assault. So I'm going to figure out how that works, and I'll show you the result of that. Well, the ineptitude here continues. So when you do an assault with a leader, you have to roll a die. There's a 1 in 6 chance that the assault gets botched and it doesn't get carried out. In this particular case, it got botched and didn't get carried out. So we spent all that fatigue for no reason, and the assault didn't go through, and so now we have another initiative phase. Unfortunately, the Union completely messing that one up. They do win initiative again, so they may try again. Well, we've had a bunch of combats, and they were probably not the smartest combats, but I'm just trying to get a handle on the system. We had the Confederates move here across the bridge. They tried to hit this this flanking unit. It was a pretty even attack. It didn't go well for either side. They're both extremely fatigued, and both of them are disorganized. And that was the end of that. Trying to dislodge some units there and make Tyler think twice about assaulting. Speaking of assaulting, we had Miles down here, stacked here, trying to assault across this river, this bridge, into these breastworks, into the Bull Run Bridge. That became a bit of a snafu, so we did the roll. We did get to do the assault this time. However, only one of the units in the stack ended up being able to actually attack, and that was not great because these breastworks gave it a pretty bad modifier. Ewell didn't take any losses. They're safe in their trenches. Meanwhile, Davies took some huge hits. He became disorganized. He's fully fatigued. And that may spell the end of the ability for the Union to get across that bridge. It's just too well defended. It's possible maybe if Miles activates just this brigade, although he's a fatigue 3, not sure he's able to do that at this particular point. So that may be the end of that for today. Here we are now at the end of this particular initiative. We roll, and we get the Confederates now with a 4. They may try and move some units up here and try and relieve some of this. What they're worried about is Tyler being able to do another assault, and he would be pretty likely to be able to have it succeed unless he rolls another 6. So they want to get some reinforcements up here. They thought about moving Evans out back 1, but he's got the most defensible spot he can be in to hold Tyler off. So he wants to stay there. And now that this unit has come up to block this ford here, maybe the Confederates want to activate Hunton and get rid of these, come out of these breastworks and join Evans here on the other side of this bridge. That might be something they do to prevent Tyler from being able to take off across. On the other hand, what do we got? We got 3 and they're disorganized. We got 3 here. We've got kind of a 1-to-1 attack. He's got 1 artillery. He's got 1 more artillery than this unit. The other option would be to march here and attack them and try and push them off of that location. Tough to say. I'll figure it out. quite an eventful couple hours up here around this bridge. Tyler made the assault, went off without a hitch, finally, no problems there. Took very minimal losses. The force distribution here was quite good, and even though the bonus across the bridge was +2 for the defender, they didn't have enough manpower. They had to retreat all the way south down Bull Run. They are demoralized one. They are probably out of action for a bit, and actually he should have a fatigue 3 marker on him because of the combat results. There we go. He should have fatigue 3. Okay. We're all good now. He's fatigue 3. He's demoralized. He's retreated very far. He's joined these cavalry here. Tyler made it across. He left units on the far side of the bridge. They control that bridge now. That's victory points. These units are basically out of action. This attack by the Confederates to push off Howard's brigade from Groveton did not go well. There was no retreat done there. In fact, I believe the Confederates may have took some losses. No, they were just disorganized, but they are also pretty much done for the day. Heinzelman still has yet to go again, and he is allowed to do that, although if he moves again, he will be in an extended march, which could, I believe, affect his manpower or organization level. I'd have to double check that. Let's see. Yeah, might disorganize him. Possible that he... affect his organization level. But it may be worth it. If he can get enough movement points to get down here to Gainesville and grab that from the Confederacy, that might be something he's wants to do. But all told, we've had a lot of combats. The combat system in this game is really interesting and kind of, I don't want to say weird, but like there's a lot going on, and it is a differential die roll, the dreaded differential die roll system. But it's pretty simple on paper, but actually doing it is a bit cumbersome. So first of all, there's a ratio. You get your ratio that provides a die roll modifier. You check and see if the artillery comparison between the two forces gives you a die roll modifier. Then there's die roll modifiers for if you're flanking, which happened up here on the bridge, thanks to Heinzelman's maneuver prior to the assault. And the tactical value of the leaders involved, and if it's an assault or not, and what the terrain is being defended in. So a lot going on here. Then you roll 2 dice, and you add those modifiers to the dice. Then you subtract the defender's die from the attacker's die to get either a positive or negative number. Then you cross-reference that with the strength points in the hex to get a result for the defender. Say it was +4 and this had 4 to 6 strength points. They'd get a 1 DR. You would also stay on that +4 line. Let's say they also had 4 to 6 strength points, and you'd get a result for the attacker there as well. So there's kind of a lot of math that has to go into it, and it's not totally clear looking at it what's going to happen. Which I'm okay with. The last thing I want is a deterministic combat system, and there is enough kind of stuff happening in the combats that you can't sort of optimize going in, which is nice, which I really do enjoy in operational level games. But, bigger stack, probably more likely to be victorious, and that's what we saw there with Tyler. So we're going to roll initiative again. We're slowly approaching the end of the scenario. I hope you're enjoying yourself. We get a Union victory here. The one thing I should mention is that the command confusion rule thing here has gone away now that the Confederacy has rolled 2 6s on the initiative roll. That frees up this brigade to move by rail, which you can't see. Let me move this back. To move by rail down here, and they can get as far as Manassas Junction, which is down here. So potentially some reinforcements for the Confederates coming in, and they badly need to get some good rolls, but unfortunately the Union's going again here, and we're going to see if we can get Heinzelman to snag Gainesville. All right, so I'll be the first to tell you I'm not playing the game probably well or even, sane. Beauregard made kind of a dash up across this river ford, tried to do some manpower losses because those are worth victory points on Keyes here. Keyes' brigade did not do any losses, did force a retreat, but in the process exhausted himself. And now he's in a really bad situation because McDowell, operating out of Centerville in the Union headquarters, saw that there was sort of a exposed Confederate commander on the Union side of the river. So he came down over a couple of activations and is basically surrounded Beauregard here with Union forces. So if he's able to get initiative and make an assault here, that's going to be very bad for him and probably will cement the Union victory. Now, the Confederates did win the initiative roll here, and they have brought down Elzey, who came down from all the way up here. I believe he started in the Piedmont Depot. He railed himself all the way down here, 1 hex shy of Gainesville, and he's hoping that the Confederates can win the initiative here so that he can just hop into Gainesville and protect it, because it doesn't look like Franklin's brigade's going to be able to do anything. He's only got 3 strength points. Probably not able to hop in there. So it's all going to come down to this roll to see where those points go. Let's find out. That is a Confederate win, so we are going to take LZ here. He's going to get a fatigue point. We're going to have to check whether or not he becomes disorganized. It's likely he will become disorganized now because he's at 3 fatigue before he moves. Either way, he's going to roll a die. He's going to get 3 movement points, and that is going to be enough to dash into Gainesville here and prevent the Union from taking that. So a nick of time reinforcement for the Confederates. Well, quite the turn of events here. Bonham's brigade, who is the largest Confederate force here with 7, he was in under this breastworks marker. Sensing an opportunity, he decided he was going to move out and see if he could make an attack on McDowell, who was here in this hex between these 2 rivers. Because, you know, from when it looks like this, if McDowell's here, suddenly McDowell is surrounded on all sides by zones of control, so he'd be completely surrounded. He'd catch him by surprise, so maybe not smart for McDowell to move there. But Bonham came out here and absolutely destroyed him, caught him completely unawares. McDowell had to retreat way back here. He's under a demoralized 2 marker. He took 2 losses. All in all, pretty much a disaster for that little expedition, and the Confederates have shored up their position here around Bull Run, and they've got this huge force here that can basically now do what it wants. It didn't hurt that they rolled a 6 on their movement value, which allowed them to do a prepared attack against McDowell, so that was a big deal. We're coming close to the end. Most of the units can't do anything anymore, but the Confederates are still finding openings, which is kind of interesting. So just some wild swings back and forth here. A couple of Confederate corps or brigades gave up their defensive positions here at Chell's Ford, came across. We're going to put some pressure on Richardson's brigade here, who's got 6 strength points with him. You know, they didn't necessarily think in this scenario they could make it all the way and grab Centerville, but, you know, if we were playing a longer game here or the campaign was happening, they would obviously want to do that, and then suddenly the Union wouldn't be able to react. Both of these stacks are, well, this one's demoralized really badly and also is at a full fatigue of 4, so they wouldn't be able to react to Beauregard's move. Unfortunately, the attack, which was a pretty good one here against Richardson, ended up being a disaster. Richardson either set an ambush or was extremely disciplined. Whatever it was that happened here, it completely took Beauregard by surprise. He took 2 losses. His units are completely fatigued now, and there's really no more activity for that particular unit. Bonham chose not to move this turn just because he didn't want to become disorganized, and there wasn't really anywhere that he felt that he could go that would be useful. But with all of that said, I'm going to call the scenario here. There's not really a lot of activity left. You know, I could move some of these outlying garrison Union forces in, and McDowell could activate them. But realistically, to get here is going to take them 2 fatigue points, which means they're going to be pretty much done for the turn. And I feel like the Union made a pretty good showing of it here. I was mainly just doing this to learn the system. If you have been watching this and you've noticed any mistakes I've made, or if you could, if you want to point out some strategic decisions I might have considered, feel free. This is definitely a learning experience, and I hope I didn't bore you too much with sort of my fumbling around the system. There's kind of a lot going on here, more than you would think. And part of it's because it's very procedurally heavy. Anytime you do a move or an attack, you have to do things in a certain order so that you can make sure that you're getting the right movement points. That the amount of fatigue going on the units is correct. I could see in bigger scenarios this being a real bear to play, just because there is a lot of counter manipulation that you need to be doing. That said, the situations that emerge here are very interesting, and one of the things that I did learn is that attacking, even if you have a larger force, is very risky. It's kind of like the Battles of the American Revolution series. It's not so much how large your force is, it's in what advantageous position do you have your units against your target. You want to get the die roll modifiers because those are way more impactful than the actual ratio of size of forces. So that is something that I sort of learned as I started doing some of these attacks, and realized very quickly that attacks, even 2 to 1, can go sideways on the attacker pretty heavily. That's what I'm going to take probably into the next scenario that I play, and understand that it's all about positioning. It's all about getting getting an artillery advantage, using assaults or prepared attacks to get DRMs. That is far more impactful. And also from a positioning standpoint, how quickly things can go sideways on you if you are out of position, as we saw here with Beauregard, who was suddenly surrounded, then he was rescued, then he felt he was in good position, made an attack, and now he's kind of stuck there in a spot where he can't really do much good. So really interesting system. I'm looking forward to like getting more into this and playing it some more. There is, I will say, a lot of game here. I mean, this is just a one-turn scenario, and I played for tonight for about 4 hours. Granted, it was a learning game, but just this tiny little sequence of things happening here was a long time. And so this game has, probably, I don't know, All Green Alike has like 8 or 9 scenarios as a campaign. One of those is a campaign scenario. There's also Stonewall Jackson's Way, which is a whole nother module that has a whole bunch of other scenarios in it. Show you. See, here's Stonewall Jackson's Way. Here's All Green Alike. So just a really incredible value in the amount of stuff that's going on here. I haven't even really penetrated a lot of the advanced rules. I got a little taste of it in this scenario. I might for the next playthrough of this on the channel do this scenario here, this across the Potomac scenario. It looks like it's probably, well, the Union has more units, and the Confederates have less, but they probably have better units, I would guess. Yeah, and this one's 4 turns, so we can get a nice narrative going potentially with this one. Looks like minimal special rules. Oh, I should probably, while we're looking at this, let's see who won this particular scenario based on how well I played it. Now, historically, the Confederates ended up routing the Union here. Let's see, victory points. So, is there any, no, there's no one next to Manassas Junction. That's where a majority of the Union points would come from. They could have damaged the railroad station there, didn't get close enough. The Union got really close to controlling, let's see, nope, that's Gainesville. Groveton, that's here. So the Union did end up taking Groveton. That is actually 10 points because there's no Confederate units adjacent, I don't think, or is this an adjacent? No, this is an adjacent Confederate unit. Okay, so that's not 10 points, that is 6 points. That's still pretty big, 6 points. We didn't get Gainesville, that would have been another 3, so still just 6. We did control this bridge up here as the Union. This was Stone Bridge, so that is going to be another 2 points, so that's 8 points. We did not get the Bull Run Bridge in here, I don't believe. No. And we didn't get Bristow Station, which is somewhere in here. We didn't burn that down. And Confederates didn't occupy Centerville, and -1 victory point for each Union manpower strength point lost in combat or retreat. That would have been, so we're at 8, -5, so we're at 3. However, the Confederates are going to give victory points, and that's going to be another 4. So we're up to 7. 7 victory points. That is a Confederate marginal victory. So what you see here, my fumbling about, this is a Confederate marginal victory. They essentially held off the Union operation well enough. Even though they did lose some of these key flank locations, they held sort of the core, and they prevented the Union from cutting their railroad line here just barely. So, it looks like the Union has to do pretty well here to win this this particular scenario, which makes sense. Had I not done some really dumb things, and actually specifically, had Beauregard's attack here been better, we probably would have been into a Confederate substantive victory, because we wouldn't have given the Union 2 more victory points here. So, that's the risk you take with attacking, right? You can absolutely just completely destroy the progress or defensive progress that you've made in this case. Anyways, that is Great Campaigns of the American Civil War from All Green Alike. We did scenario number 4. which was called An End to Innocence. And that is the end of my innocence when it comes to this system. Yeah, you see what I did there? I'm going to set up another scenario and probably play through that first scenario, which is the early Civil War. And we'll just see how it goes. And let me know if you're enjoying this. I will probably skip the rules explanation in the next one, and we'll just get right into the story that emerges from play. Thanks for watching.